student. Nevertheless, I think the strangest case has to be found in Burnet's Secret Garden, which, far from being imperialistic, seems to contain, dare I say, a singularly reactionary message. For those not familiar with the plot, The Secret Garden tells the story of a child, Mary Lennox, who is the daughter of what would be the Edwardian version of the jet-setting elites, a wealthy set of British mandarins working in the imperial structure of occupied India. Her parents, being more interested in politics and socializing, pay really no attention to their daughter, who is raised mainly by their Indian staff. Catered to such extent that the girl almost has no idea how to care for herself out of the care of her nanny. Really though, when I read this part of the book again, I kind of chuckled to myself. It looks like pretentious global elites are not a new thing. You can almost imagine Mary's parents being Guardian readers. Nevertheless, a horrific tragedy strikes when a cholera outbreak occurs, leaving Mary orphaned. Subsequently, she's sent back to England to live in Yorkshire with her very stern uncle, who has a cold and mysterious mansion set upon equally cold and mysterious moors. Over the initial part of the story, we see Mary going from being a sickly child who can't care for herself to being somebody who's forced, by the British, Scotch, and Irish staff nonetheless, to play outside and learn how to take care of herself. Moreover, Mary's rejuvenation is accompanied by an increasing fascination with the land itself, which, while much less exotic than the India where she was born, is nonetheless hers. It's something that she can care for and look after. When her uncle grants her a request, she asks only for a piece of earth that she can take care of. Part of this process of Mary's rediscovery of herself is coming to respect the land and to learn how to cultivate it. The rest of Mary's story, however, is focused around two other mysteries. The first being a mysterious walled and unkempt garden where all of the staff are forbidden to tread. The second one being a mysterious sick boy locked away in the lower parts of the mansion, who Mary later discovers is her cousin, the never-mentioned son of her cold and distant uncle. And as the plot goes on, these mysteries come together. The walled garden, it turns out, was the garden of Mary's aunt, the deceased wife of her uncle, who loved it more than anything when she was alive. After his sickly son was born and his wife passed away, Mary's uncle locked the garden and forbade anyone from entering it, lest he recall the painful memory of her death. As Mary and her cousin Colin's friendship grow, they begin to restore the garden, and then implicitly Colin's failing health, unbeknownst, of course, to her uncle. When it's finally revealed at the end that Mary has not only restored the garden, where of course she was forbidden to enter, but has also revived the health of her sickly cousin, her uncle's cold demeanor melts away, and he's reminded of the generous man he once was when witnessing the beauty of the restored secret garden. It's a very simple story and quite a beautiful one, but in everything going back to it, far from being a tale of imperialism, the lesson it teaches is quite the opposite. While Mary lives in India as the princess of India's implicit ruling class, she is in essence being raised a Brahman, a high-class aristocrat who is somehow permanently separated not only from the people she rules over, but also from the land that she occupies. She has no connection to India. She has no connection to the Hindus, even the Hindus who she relies on for everything. And in such a state, her health fades away. She becomes a shadow. She has no identity. But when Mary returns to Yorkshire, she re-embraces who she is. She's forced outside into a much bleaker environment than the subcontinent. Here, she's faced not only with herself, but a land that she can actually own and cultivate. Although she is of upper class, and necessarily the ward of the house's master, she's nonetheless not entirely separated from those who serve her. She knows them. They look after and correct her, and there is something strong in that. More direct yet is the symbolism of the secret garden, which mirrors directly Mary's uncle's relationship with his own family, with his own land. The garden represents everything that the British aristocrat should be. It represents everything of what differentiates an aristocrat from a Brahmin. The Brahmin is aloof. He is of a different kind than the people he rules over. He is spiritually not of the land, and he's set apart because he does not dig the earth. He is higher because he is detached. But the aristocrat rules because he is of the same blood and land as the people who he rules over. Of course, he has a higher rank, and rank must be respected for practical purposes. But, as is always said, Noblesse, Oblige. He must remember his connection to those who serve under him, and in that the garden is the ultimate symbol. In the garden, the aristocrat tills the earth. In the garden, he replicates the very same stewardship of the land that is also carried out by the common folk who live and work on the lands that he possesses. And just as he cares for his own land in his garden, he also cares for his people, starting with his own family. In that symbolic light, I'm not so sure I've ever heard a more succinct takedown of imperialism, at least from a reaction.